And you're live.
Okay, thank you very much, Sharon. This is Margaret Turner, Chair of the Board of Selectmen of Waterville Valley. And as usual, we're going to open our meeting today with a reading of the Right to Know Law meeting checklist. As Chair of the Board of Selectmen, due to the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis, in accordance with the Governor's News Emergency Order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this board is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which is authorized pursuant to the Governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, this is to confirm that we, A, are providing public access to the meeting by telephone, with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing the Zoom platform for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through the Zoom platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen by accessing the town YouTube channel. And if necessary, to participate in this meeting through dialing the following phone number, 603-236-4730, or emailing townofwv@watervillevalley.org, or you can text to 603-254-6708. We are providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of how to access the meeting using Zoom, and instructions are provided on the Town of Waterville Valley's website at www.watervillevalley.org. We are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please call 603-236-4730 or email at townofwv@watervillevalley.org. And we will adjourn the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have it rescheduled at that time. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, also please state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the Right to Know law. This is Margaret Turner, Chair of the Board, and I am at home.
This is Rich Rita, Vice Chair of the Board, and I am alone.
Mike Aronson, alone.
Okay, let's get our meeting underway then. First thing on the agenda is, I believe, public comment session, number 1. I'm looking for my agenda. No, we want the COVID-19 update first.
So,
What do we have, Chris?
well, I think the biggest news, Margaret, is that right now the governor's task force on reopening is in the process of voting a series of new guidance and forwarding those to the governor and Department of Health and Human Services. I would imagine that information is going to be used by the governor in making his announcement either at the end of this week or beginning of next week regarding the next phase of reopening. The new guidance that they are reviewing and voting on right now include a new set of universal guidance, a new campground phase 2, retail phase 2, amusement park, arts festivals, fairs, regional beach plan phase 2. And so there's going to be a lot of information that we're going to have to go through in the new documents that they are talking about right now. I don't think there's going to be, drastic changes, but I would expect that The gathering numbers are going to be changed, especially here in the North Country. Occupancy rates for restaurants, lodging, and that sort of thing are going to be increased. I wouldn't be surprised to see both of those examples being 100% from now on. And there's going to be some different guidance for employers and employees. So I haven't had a chance to go through all the guidance yet, but I will do that and let you know if there's anything that we see as detrimental.
Yeah, just so everybody is aware, the governor's reopening task force, which I listen to most days, it used to meet Monday through Thursday with a public comment session on Friday. That was for all the phase 1 guidance, which is now up on the NH Economy website. What they are doing now is meeting Monday, Wednesday, and on Thursday, they have the public comment session. So the task force itself is only meeting twice a week, and they've basically gone through all of their phase 1 stuff, as Mark said, and are on to phase 2 and recommendations in that area to the health department, and then the health department and the governor get together and decide what to do. So that's where they are with it.
As far as here in town, I guess I'd ask Chris to comment on that, but we, as far as town operations are concerned, everything is working fine here with the walk-in traffic. Staff is we're checking in, doing our medical check-ins every day, and we are wearing masks if the customer wants us to. We're walking material out to them if they want us to, and we're still doing a lot of business by phone and by email. So, but everything, I haven't received anything I'm aware of as far as any complaints or people not being able to contact us or work with us. So it's going well from this side. What about around town, Chris?
I don't have much more to add other than what your input, Mark. We're seeing that everybody through education and practice has gotten used to all of the social distancing guidelines and mask use guidelines. And it seems to be going very smoothly. And, it's becoming second nature. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it is, everybody's cooperating, and I'd like to thank everybody for that. And things are going very smoothly. We're starting to see a few more people around town, which is a good thing. And going out and about, you can slowly see things starting to liven up a little bit, which is really good. So far, so good.
Also, we had the question at the community meeting about parking signs and stuff. Can you comment about parking around town, what you're seeing?
Yeah, so the parking rules still apply. We've taken down our emergency signs that we put up because frankly, there's many more parking opportunities now that are not on the street that weren't there when we put the signs up. So and the snow's gone, so the trailheads are pretty wide open for parking. The mountain parking lot is open for hikers that hike Tecumseh. Depot Camp has all the snow melted out, so there's plenty of more spots in there. So the parking rules still do apply, but we feel like we don't have to remind people because of the the parking surface area has increased, so we shouldn't see much overflow on the roads.
Good. Any questions, Margaret? I do want to, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to comment that we just did some maintenance over at the post office, put up new plastic. Ann says things have been going relatively smoothly over there. People are are being considerate within the confined space, and they seem to be wearing masks. Just want to remind folks that we are asking that people, when they're inside the post office area, to please wear a mask, because it is a pretty tight space in there, and it's difficult to maintain social distancing. So other than that, I think everything that I remember Ann saying, things were going pretty well.
All right, anything else from anyone? Any comments or questions come in, Mark?
I have not seen any.
Okay. All right, then we'll move from our COVID-19 update to privilege of the floor number 1. Do we have any privilege of the floor number 1 from anyone? No? Okay. Then let's go on to review and approve the minutes. We'll start with the May 21st special meeting. And I have a couple of comments there. On line 40, that should be the Waterville Valley Golf Club. I thought we had a new club and I wasn't a member.
Hey, Margaret, if we're gonna pick on grammar, I've got one on 32. It should be
Okay.
to display instead of it display.
Okay, thanks. And on line 45, the beach area will not be closed, but signage will be present explaining, I think we need something like the need for social distancing. So add the need. That's all I had on those. Rick, Mike, any others?
Nope. Just
Yeah.
minor.
Yeah, I had some minor grammatical things that I can get together with Sharon on later. Nothing substantive, as long as nobody here considers Packard or package a substantive issue.
Was it? I can never remember which we're supposed to use apostrophes with and which we are not. But at anyhow, let us see if we can have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of, I'm looking at May 27th, I guess. Sorry. May 27th, regular meeting minutes.
Yeah, again,
Yeah,
who wants to go? I'll get together with Sharon on the 27th, about the 27th minutes. Again, all non-substantive grammatical things.
okay. I didn't have anything on the 27th minutes, so we'll let Rich go there. And finally, we have the minutes of June 1st, the special meeting that we held.
I never got it.
Oh, I didn't. I'm just looking.
Yeah,
No.
no, Margaret, don't look any further, because I only finished them this afternoon. And,
Okay.
so I did not want to send them to you in the moments ahead of the meeting, so they are done, and they'll be just at your next meeting.
Okay. All right. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 21st and May 27th meetings as amended?
I so move.
Thank you, Rich.
Mike, I'll second.
Thank you, Mike. All in favor? Margaret says yes.
Rich, yes.
Mike, yes.
All right, thank you very much. All right, financial report. Did everybody have a chance to look at our expenditures and revenues?
Yep.
Any questions from anyone?
Nope, not on my part.
I didn't
I'm
have,
fine.
little scary to be 46% through the year with only 21% collected, but most of that is because we haven't had our taxes due yet. So we'll see what happens in our tax collection. Okay. Department head reports.
Jim, you want to start?
Sure, I can start. Everybody's healthy, everybody's doing well. We we're almost caught up on roadsides for the first time, since since spring broke, and, we were kind of, doing the, split shifts, so we're pretty well caught up. We've been doing, you might have noticed that we've, replaced a whole bunch of split rail fence around town. We've added some here and there. We did a pretty good little substantial cleanup at Pump House #1. We had some trees down, and we decided to spruce that up a little bit. We pushed a tree out of the west branch of the Mad River, so we've been busy, but roadsides are coming together. I think the big news this week is that the trail project started today, and that will be continuing along. They'll be running conduit mainly. But just so that you know, there are several items that are going to take a while to procure, such as the lamp posts and some of the bases for the lamp posts and whatnot. But all the conduit will be in, pull stations will be in so they can pull the wire. So I think what you'll see is a project that is almost complete without the lamps hanging and functional for, I would say, August at this point in time. But hopefully not.
Mark, how did the walkthrough with the folks from the Snowsbrook condominium go?
It was very positive. We showed them where the posts are going to be put in.
Yep.
There's some vegetation between them and the light posts. And we also changed the fixture itself so that we will have an appropriate light, but it'll be really the smallest and dimmest light that we can use and still light the area that we need. So we've made that change and communicated that with the town core working group. And the folks from Snowsbrook Association seem to be okay. We also coordinated with them the actual connection, because we're gonna have to use the transformer by their entrance down behind the Silver Fox. We're gonna have to use that transformer to bring the electricity into the light posts. So we told them what that would look like, and they okayed that. Right, Jim?
That's correct.
And we also talked to them about there are add-ons that we can look at for the light posts for dimmer switches, if need be, but we'll take that as a second step if the light that we put in still looks too bright. So I think it was positive.
I thought
Brooke, you were there too. Anything I missed?
Nope, that sounds pretty much what happened.
Okay.
Alrighty. Who should we hear from next, Mark?
Yeah, Brooke, you want to go?
Sure.
You got a lot.
We are working hard to issue refunds for the camp weeks that we canceled, and because of that, there's a little bit of movement that Sandra's been working to. If people are moving out of a group, that the next person on the wait list comes in. So a lot of parent conversations happening after we sent the paperwork out yesterday. I did send a copy of it to you all today, so you could look over it. And we also posted it on the Recreation Department website under the Summer Camps tab, so that anybody can go on and take a look at that information. I also talked to Gail, the principal, today, and they are having their enrichment program happening in the school. I just found out today. Before it was going to be remote, and now it's going to be in the school. So she came to ask sort of what the type of paperwork and health screening things we're going to be doing, so that she could get an idea of that. So I sent that to her. we've had a couple of staff back out for the summer, so we're trying to replace 2 counselor positions and rework some other positions to get all the coverage that's required in order to run camps. We had 1 interview today. We're working on getting a hiking schedule back up that can work with social distancing, and you know, the logistics will just be different. So we're working to get that up and going by the end of this month is our hope. I've talked to a couple of the people for our general programs for the movies on Packard and also for the music on Packard that we had planned, and asked if they would be willing to sort of talk about delaying the start. And they were both willing to do that. So we're looking at kind of the first week of July as a potential starting week for those events if we're allowed to do them. We also I reached out to the Waterville Valley Foundation to see how we could work together on movies if at all possible. They have the screen. They've just been paying the licensing fee, which is very expensive. Each time you show a movie, it's $300 to $400 just for the licensing fee. So that's been their main expense, but they do have the screen. So I'll continue to talk to them to see how we can possibly work together to get that accomplished. They're kind of going through this for the first time outdoors this Saturday, depending on the weather. What else? We're getting really close on the guidebook to get it to the printer. It's really exciting. It's been a lot of work, and there's been some amazing people in the community helping put this together. Brenda and Preston Conklin and Dan Newton and Warren Wheelock have really been helping tremendously to pull this together, of course, with Steve Smith. So hopefully we'll get to show you something on that soon. And I think that covers it. Although I'm sure there's something. Maybe there's a question you might have.
Not a question, Brooke, but Irene is in the area.
I know, we've thought of her.
She's not in Waterville Valley, but she is around, so.
Yeah, and I know that Sandra's had some conversations with her about the possibility of that. A second counselor sort of fell through recently, so we definitely will be reaching out if we need to. She would be a welcome return.
Right. Okay. Chris, you're up.
Chris?
Hello, I don't have a whole lot to report. I can tell you what we're seeing. We're seeing a slow increase in our calls for service. It's relative to where we have been, so it's not up to the summer levels yet. So we're keeping busy. We're scheduling pump tests for the trucks, and it's we're almost getting back to business as usual, which is a good feeling. Other than that, that's about where we are. I guess later in the meeting we'll talk about some other things. So that's my update. I might add that as a keeper of the text messages, I have a question that came in via text. I don't know if you want to handle that in privilege of the floor later, or if we should take it now.
We can take it now. Right?
Okay, so this is a question, I assume they're talking about the C&D camp up top, as Jim calls it. It says, for Public Works, can we open construction dump full-time again, is the question.
No, we got an email about that too. What's going on with that?
Well, right now it's access to the transfer station, if you will, where the C&D can is kept, is Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. We have been closed Tuesdays and Thursdays because we've seen a slowdown in activity around town. And it also helped us during our kind of employee split shift. We've been utilizing a part-timer up there, Brad, to work for DPW and other areas. So I think at this point in time, that was the only comment that I had heard about the dump being open personally. So I had only gotten that one email from the same one that you folks got. So I think that I'll just be honest, Monday, Wednesday, Friday works great for us. If we get one complaint, well, maybe that's one too many. I don't know. It's kind of up to the board, I guess.
Okay. I mean, if somebody had an emergency that they couldn't wait to one of those days, they could give you a call, right?
Absolutely, because we can
Yeah.
we can make accommodations if need be.
Right.
And the other thing too that I've been kind of seeing is that in the last week or so, there have been several, probably what you call them remodels, I guess, and with a substantial amount of C&D, and we try very hard to say, if you're going to do a big job, you should have a C&D can on site and not be taking it all down here whenever you want. And I know it's tough for contractors to schedule a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but a lot of these situations, I think they probably should have their own cans on site.
Hey, Chris, isn't that something I often see when they're building a new home? They have a place to dump their material right there, right?
Yeah, so many do have their own cans on site, and they're perfectly allowed. And frankly, I think it's actually less expensive for the contractor, depending on the amount of C&D they have.
Okay. Jim, there's one other thing I forgot as long as we have you. During the community session that we have on Tuesday, where, I don't know, 50 or so people participate in this Zoom meeting on Tuesday at 10, the subject of recycling came up once again. And the individual brought it up, said that he believed that the reason that we didn't have recycling was because of cost. But I thought, in talking to Mark, it might be useful to review why it is that we don't have recycling now. Cost may be one element, but there are some other things to consider as well. And I don't know whether, Mark, you want to talk to that or have Jim talk to it.
No, go ahead, Jim.
Well, not
There's
having,
several reasons.
what's that?
There's several reasons.
There are
Right.
several reasons, and one is yes, there are some markets open. However, for the volumes, it's all got to do with volume. Waterville Valley does not produce enough of a volume to make any option that may be available now viable. We don't process enough. We have no way of taking aluminum and storing it. We have no way of keeping glass separated and stored. Lots of this stuff has to be dry. Paper, for example, cardboard, that all has to be stored. It all has to be dry and kept under cover. We have no facility to do that. We don't have acreage enough to do composting and a lot of that other type of thing that people are asking about. And quite frankly, it all comes down to volume, and that of course contributes to cost. And from going to the Pemmy Baker Solid Waste District meetings that I regularly attend, because we're a member, a lot of towns like Plymouth, Camden Thornton, Littleton, they're all experiencing big problems. And most of these big towns where you go in and you drop off your recyclable materials, the transfer station attendants typically sort by hand. And during during this lockdown, that has been closed in many of these transfer stations that belong to the Penny Baker Solid Waste District. So, and they're all complaining about not being able to get rid of stored recyclable materials that they have on hand. And if they can't get rid of the stuff that they have stored, there's no more storage for it, so therefore they can't take it. So there's all kinds of problems in the
And the other
recyclable world.
the other controlling factor for us with when we tried the single stream recycling, there was a level of contamination that we were allowed in our recyclables, which allowed us to use our existing trash truck to collect the recyclables. Now they've lowered that contamination level so drastically that we would literally need a new truck and someone to run it if we were collecting recyclables.
And if I may add to that contamination comment, the problem is that if you literally have to take the pizza boxes from the people and check them to see if there's cheese on them, because then that's regular garbage. It's no longer recyclable. If it has the wax paper in it, it's no longer recyclable. If the mayonnaise jar has the plastic top on it, it's no longer recyclable. They're two different plastics. They have to be physically taken apart. And all of this stuff needs to be washed.
And Jim, you know, part of the cost factor, plus the fact that you end up not recycling, what happens if you show up at the Bethlehem dump with a load of recyclables and they're found to be contaminated?
It goes right into the landfill at the higher price.
Is it $140 versus $70 for normal trash?
In round numbers, yes.
Yeah. And the other thing I thought was worth mentioning too is that we actually contacted a number of contractors because we didn't have a clean truck to see if any of them wanted to come in and take our stuff. And what did we hear back?
Our volume does not meet, we would have to store so much for them to make it viable for them to come in and take it. Glass is one thing, but there is a program where you can either pay to have your glass transported, or you can transport it yourself. But it's through the NRRA, which we remember. But the problem is when they make them, they grind it up, and there's experiments all over the place in different towns that have a lot of need for crushed gravel. They mix it in their roads. The problem is that when you take your stuff there, you have to commit to X amount of tons in return. And we have no use for that product. And number one, and no place to store it if we did. We've got 300 feet of dirt road in town, and it's not even a town road. It's just it's a private road, which we use as a fire lane.
Okay.
And I might add that the town of Plymouth, I know, used that particular crushed glass aggregate, is what they call it. And they had to come in and they had to cover the road with another 12 inches of regular gravel because everybody with a dog didn't like it, because the dogs have a tough time walking on it.
Okay. I don't know, have I missed anything in that discussion, Mark?
No, I think that's good, Margaret.
Okay. We are still looking for ideas. If people have ideas out there who are following this, and I know we have a lot of people, including myself, who would love to have a recycling program if we could figure out how to do it. So please, if you have any ideas, send them into Mark, give Mark a call, give Jim a call, give somebody a call, and let us know, and we'll be glad to investigate further.
Yep.
Okay. All righty.
I did want to highlight, Margaret, as I put in my memo, we're working on a drinking water state revolving fund loan pre-application. There's actually 3 different programs. There's the drinking water SRF, the wastewater SRF, and a special wastewater planning grant program. All of those pre-applications are due on Monday. So they're all similar to the one that I included in your packet, the same basic information. Just one side is water and the other is sewer.
Okay.
But by doing these pre-applications, the state can screen all of the interested towns and their projects before the town has to go through a more detailed application process. So they will get back to us with, yeah, this looks like a project we can look at, and then we will do a full-blown application. So these don't commit us in any way to do any of the programs, but they do keep us a place in line if it looks like a project the state wants us to do.
Okay. You don't need any signatures for any of us
No,
on
just
this.
not in the pre-app, no.
Okay.
Just,
All right,
were there any comments or thoughts on what you looked at in the application? I am reworking the language, a little bit on some of the things, but other, it's a pretty straightforward.
We still have that median household income in there.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Yeah.
like, but I have a strategy for that. So I'll show you what I end up putting in there.
Okay. There isn't a calendar review on the agenda,
Yeah, no, I forgot that, sorry.
but just in terms of calendar review, I have a personal errand, which I have to be out of state perhaps for a week to 10 days starting Saturday. So I should be back for the next meeting. If not, I can probably participate electronically, so.
Okay, anybody else have any issues, Mike or Rich?
I'm good.
You good?
Okay, next thing on the agenda is new business and update on the residence numbers.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out we're getting a lot of folks coming in. As you can see in my in the memo, the numbers that I put in there, we've basically had 29 new residents since the beginning of the year come in. We did take names off, so the net is only an increase of about 16, but that 29 new residents is about almost 6.5% change in our total population. So we are seeing a lot of these, a lot of folks registering new cars, which is good news for our revenue.
Okay, and the school has also seen an increase.
Yeah,
They lost some people because of graduations and other reasons, but I think they have 7 new people officially enrolled, 7 new kids enrolled.
Yeah, it's either 7 or 8 with a couple, so it may be as many as 10, I think was the last number Tim said to me.
Right. Okay.
On the topic of residency, I assume everyone saw the New Hampshire Supreme Court decision concerning domicile and residency?
Same thing, right?
Yes, there's no longer a difference between the two,
Okay.
which is going to be important for voting purposes.
That's correct.
Yeah. Mike, have you seen a difference in terms of interest at real estate?
Not significantly. We're seeing more people that want to come up here and rent for the summer.
Okay,
We're seeing, it's funny, we're not seeing that young family that wants to come here and move to be in the school yet. We just don't have that property, and the ones we've seen, the properties aren't working out for them. But yeah, we're hoping as more properties come on the market and things calm down and people get more confidence in the economy, that we'll see more people coming up here to get away from everything else, to be here for why we all are here.
right.
So it's more of an inventory problem than anything else, Mike?
No, it's not just the inventory, or it's hard to say because the real estate market industry has changed so dramatically that people are buying online before they're even calling us.
Oh, wow.
So it may be an inventory problem because put it this way, there are things in every price range on the market, on the internet, in the inventory, but we're not seeing a huge amount of calls yet on it. We are seeing people who are living in smaller condos wanting bigger condos, and we are getting a real push on people that want to rent for the summer or longer. So that's interesting.
We'll have to see if they convert into full-time residents.
I think people want to see if they can live in a town like this.
Yeah.
It's an acquired taste for a lot of us, and a lot of us fall in love with it and aren't leaving. And hopefully, if we get enough people through the doors here, we'll have enough people to fill our schools and our restaurants and everything else.
Right.
Okay. All right, on to old business. Reopening town and outdoor activities going forward. Here we are with the 4th of July again.
Well, I just have kept it on in case there was a change in any of the guidance, but as I wrote in my memo, we're not seeing the largest number that was mentioned today in the reopening task force is groups of 50. I don't know when that'll happen, but I am getting the impression that even when restaurants go back to, say, 100% occupancy or whatever, the actual groupings of people for activities, even outdoors, are still going to be somehow, I don't know how, but somehow limited to that 50 number or less.
I guess Bristol had a contentious meeting and they're going ahead with fireworks this year.
They are.
Yeah, I met a selectman last night from Bristol who told me that.
Well, we have, I have not made the final phone call for ours. We can expect a lot more than 50 people here for the fireworks, so I don't know how you feel.
I have expressed concern to the person who keeps talking to me about this, that we might be able to say, well, people have to stay in their cars and that kind of thing, but we have no ability to be able to enforce that. And this person says back to me, so what? They're only guidelines. They aren't requirements. So that's the thing that's on the other side of this that I've heard, but it's only from one person at this point in time. I don't know if the other selectmen have heard anything, or Mark.
I'm hearing it from the same person.
Mm.
No one's bothering me.
Yeah.
Me neither.
No one's bothering you to do it, you mean?
Yeah.
No one's mentioned it to me one way or the other.
Right.
Chris, because I would like to, I do need to make the phone call by Friday. And I don't know, I just wanted to make sure, have this conversation and make sure that we were all on the same page. But I've given Atlas the indication that we're not doing it, but that we would call them no later than Friday morning.
Let's just say that unless the governor tomorrow basically says northern counties no longer have a group limitation, that you're going to make the call on Friday.
Okay.
That we're going to delay the fireworks until 2021 in that instance, where the governor does not make that announcement. And from everything I've seen, he's being much more cautious than that.
Yes,
So,
much more cautious than no limits. There will be some kind of limit.
right.
I think a potential, if we're really the only one in the region that's having it, I don't think, Chris, you can get the public safety staff, and can you even get part-timers to help out? Now,
No, it would be, I think it would be kind of messy.
see, there's your answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's from a public safety, if public safety thinks there's an issue with it, there's gotta be an issue.
And
Yeah.
believe me, I am a fireworks buff. I love the fireworks, and it saddens me and my family and all of our staff to feel that way. But I think because it's a town-sponsored event, I think we have some liability and some responsibilities that I don't think that we can meet. Just my opinion.
Okay. Well, that makes
I'll go with your
the
opinion.
world. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
For the other activities, Margaret, the boats on Corcoran's Pond, we are open this weekend. Not much activity, right, Brooke?
Right, so last weekend, the last 2 weekends, we've been open on Saturday from 10 to 3. Typically, this time of year, we're open on Saturday and Sundays from 10 to 4, so not much difference there. The first weekend, we had 3 rentals, and this last weekend, we had 0 rentals. We're looking to be open this Saturday from 10 to 3 again, and then starting Father's Day weekend, I was planning to open both Saturday and Sunday. However, you know, I guess it's up to you all if you want to continue to be open in the case that there's going to be customers, or, you know, how do you want to approach that?
Can you get occupancy reports or an occupancy trend from the Resort Association or from the lodges? Because if we're not booking rooms, you know, it doesn't make any sense to be open. Because
Yeah.
you're obviously not pulling it from the townspeople. Maybe in a couple of weeks when schools are out and we have an established base of who's going to be here for the summer, it might make a little bit more sense. But for now, I think it's just wasting money. And the other thing is, I think people will understand. We are in a different time and a different world now. So anything that we're doing that's differently, that is perceived and laid out in a solid manner, I think is going to be acceptable to most people.
I think a couple of things to take in. I'm sorry, Mike.
No, I'm done.
A couple of things to take into consideration, that, you know, the Freedom Pass, the hotels just were able to open. They had very few. I was in a WVRA meeting this morning, and there were, I think, a handful of guests between the 2 hotels. 4, I think, was the number this weekend. But the Freedom Pass is being handed out. They are getting lots of calls, but, you know, this coming weekend is pretty much dead. So there's really not a lot happening. However, you know, we have this staff ready to go. They've been trained, and, you know, I have to be sensitive and careful about how people's plans can change if they're not getting hours. And then, you know, also just offering this as a Freedom Pass activity. And then the last thing I would say is that I know we talked about this last time, but I think there's an opportunity to sell seasonal boat passes to the residents of Waterville Valley. If they are the ones that are here, the only ones that would be using the service, then, you know, I just keep thinking about that. And I know your concerns about that, but right now there's really no competition.
I would do the season pass, maybe limiting the total number of them, Brooke, to, I don't know, 25, 50, whatever you're comfortable with. Because I share your concern if we don't give hours to the staff, being able to keep them on through the summer. And I do think that we'll start to pick up more after the 4th of July. And I just like to have the boats running, so we're getting some practice. put the season pass out there so that we can generate some revenue. But all of the numbers that I showed you for the next agenda item all take into account that we are running the boats from now through the entire season. So, we're not going to lose extra money by keeping it open. What I'm showing you is our projection of the worst case scenario right now.
Wait a minute, Mark, how can you say we're not gonna lose extra money by keeping it open if we have no revenue? If you have 3 kids sitting there with no people showing up for 3 weekends?
Well, because the adjustments that we made are taking into account that there's going to be reduced boat time. Like as an example, on the Freedom Pass, we took out all but $2,000 of the revenue on the revenue side. So if we generate anything through the summer, it's going to and the expense side reflects we reserved enough money in there. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brooke, but we reserved enough money on the expense side to pay these positions for the weekend shifts that she's talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, as long as,
We wouldn't have to modify those, right, Brooke?
I think they're correct.
right, I'm just saying, we need to watch these things. I understand about keeping the staff on, and what I also understand is that having the boats staffed, that probably mostly by local kids, is part of our rec department providing social activities and a thing for our summer kids to do in the summer. So I think it's real important, and it should be done. But I just think we have to pay attention to what it is, or pay attention to other things, because I just see significant losses, and I don't want to be perceived as we're wasting money.
Brooke, remind us again about the seasonal boat pass.
Okay, so in the past, it's we get probably about 15 families, I would say, a year. Typically, the same families that buy it for $120. Okay, and you have to be a member in order to get this. So usually it's our own residents. They purchase this, and then they are free to use the boats as much as they want throughout the summer. But it really doesn't usually turn into a daily thing. It's just so that they have the freedom to go down there with their family at any time and just use the boats. So it's a good deal, but it doesn't get used, to the max. So we've had actually more requests for it this spring than ever. I would say people, I think, that are just around town and they're looking for something to do, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense for them to pay $20 a pop for a boat when they can buy the whole pass for the whole family for $120 for the summer. I mean, I understand Mike's concerns. In a typical summer, it would just be kind of boxing out everybody, but because there's nobody down there really taking advantage of this, it seems like an opportunity, and also a way to kind of give the people here something to do.
Yeah, come to think of it, I've never been on the boats. So,
Go buy a season pass, Marty.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So they're still available then, the season
Oh.
pass.
Well, based on the conversation we had last week, we decided to actually cut the season pass because of the concerns that were raised. But that is something that we could reverse.
Now, are you still basing this on the boats only being open 2 days a week?
Yes, I mean, right now we've only been open once a week to this point.
Right.
So things could change a lot. I mean, they really could. Come July 4th and after, maybe the environment will change significantly. I don't know, but if we do commit to a season boat pass, obviously we have to stand by that.
Yeah.
And I think that we're going to go in a positive direction. I don't think that the change is going to go backwards from the direction we're headed right now. So I think that if anything, the decontamination requirements and all of these other issues will probably evolve through the summer. So I don't see any harm in limiting that perhaps to like 25 total season passes, because that's still only a portion of the available PFDs, right, Brooke?
Yep.
So that would potentially get us 5 or 6 or maybe 10 families, I don't know. And just see where it goes from there. Because if your normal summer is only 15, I don't think we have to worry about it being much higher than that, maybe 20. You know, I think we should try it and just.
Does it make any sense if we do this to have one other midweek day? Or is that prohibited? Respect to
Sure.
the
I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, if this were a normal year, we wouldn't be open 7 days a week until like the June 22nd time period. That's when we would typically be opening for 7 days a week. So, you know, if you wanted to do that, we have people to do it. I mean, they're ready to do that.
And I say go to 3 days a week on Father's Day weekend and that week following. See if you get anybody.
But can you do 3 days with the PFD requirements? Can you do 3 days?
Right. Well, right now, based on the people that are not coming, we have plenty of PFDs.
Yeah.
All right. Brooke, you're the manager. Manage it, and we'll see what happens at the end. We'll talk about it.
So I would say go ahead and allow the season pass for the boats and see if you can do it on 3 days a week based on volume and see what happens.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. You already updated us on summer camps, right, Brooke?
I think so, unless you had anything specific you wanted to know. I just wanted you three to know that information is out and available to the public so that you can direct people if they have questions or are curious.
Are there any openings left in summer camp?
No.
That should be made clear to people too, that the camp, unfortunately, the camp is sold out.
Yeah, and we have that on our website in red, bold letters on summer camp.
But Brooke, you do it who are backing out, correct?
We've had, I can only think of one case of somebody that couldn't commit to the 14-day, attestment to being in New Hampshire, leading up to the camp.
Okay.
Maybe we'll get more of those. I'm not sure, but we have very healthy wait lists. So we've been able to move, people into those spots, as things get rearranged.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Let's move on and talk about our budget information. We had the special meeting in which we took our first look at the budget. And basically we are looking at, we think I gotta get to my next page. We think we are looking at about a $216,000 shortfall in our revenues based on what we know right now. And so what we are attempting to do at our special meeting, I think it was, I've forgotten what day it was.
June 1st.
Okay, June 1st. What we were attempting to do is to see if there was a way that we could make up for that shortfall by reducing our expenses, putting off capital projects, that kind of thing. And Mark, you want to update us? Just give us a summary as to where we are right now?
Yep, so the recommended changes, after the meeting, I went back and looked. We have the page that shows you our recommended reductions in each line item. The total of that is $251,500. That's about 76 cents on the tax rate that we can reduce. So we actually, just with that top section of recommended changes, we can more than cover the projected shortfall, which I'd rather do it that way right now, because some of these things as capital items, we can fund later in the year if the revenues pan out. But I have estimated on the revenue reduction side, only about a 10% reduction for water, sewer, and solid waste. I think we need to get to the end of this month and see what the second quarter numbers are in each one of those areas, because that may be a low estimate. Where, you know, especially things like the solid waste, the quarterly trash fees, we are seeing very big reduction numbers on the commercial side for the second quarter.
Yes.
And if things like lodging don't come back to 100%, or if they're looking at not having a lot of business until weddings pick up or something like that in August now that the resort is talking about. So that 10% number could actually be a little bit low. So I'd rather leave the reductions at the 251 or even at the 263 number by adding in the Historical Society and the fireworks. Now that we have a final decision on the fireworks, we can get that number up to the 263.5.
And just to be clear, when we had our special meeting, I had asked Mark, well, the selectmen asked Mark to go back and talk to the organizations that were receiving financial help from the town, like the Ray Center, WVAIA, the Trolley, the Historical Society, Shakespeare in the Valley, and basically Mark talked to all of them and asked whether they were going to be able to get by with less than had been allocated for this year. And without exception, they all said that would not be a good thing for them. It would basically, they couldn't work with less money than we had promised to give them. So the only exception to that was that because of the coronavirus, the Historical Society has not been able to hire the intern and start some of the work that they were planning to do this year. So they have told us that they would be willing to accept. Well, we basically are recommending 5,000 as opposed to 10,000. But again, all of these organizations are in a category where we're thinking at this time we're not going to touch because we think some other things may happen that we don't need to touch those. But Mark, could you just talk a little bit about some of the capital projects that are not going to get done as a result of this?
Yeah, the new plow truck lease is one of the items that in talking to Jim, we can defer for a year. The wastewater and water repair accounts, we're basically recommending to reduce those a little more than half. So we'll take out $25,000. That'll leave us $20,000 for the rest of the year with the existing monies that we have. The aeration system improvements, the sludge drying bed maintenance, that's together about $40,000 between those two projects. And the aeration system is working. We can do some very minor repairs, and talking to Dylan about the status of that system right now. And that really was not money that in either one of those cases that we were going to use this year. We were basically creating a reserve account to be able to do a larger project in the future. So we'll either be able to up the funding later on, or we can defer it until we can put the money away. So that $40,000 is okay to reduce from our standpoint. And then the carbon filter replacement is another $35,000. Huh. Okay, so I just died. What happened?
We can see you.
Uh-oh.
Can you still hear me?
You still
You
hear
can
him?
see and hear me.
Yeah.
Yes.
My screen just went blank, so Judy's gonna tell me if you can't see or hear me anymore, but the $35,000 for the carbon filter replacement is still, is okay to remove from this year's budget because we've been told that our EPA permit is up for renewal, so there may be there may be other options that we're going to want to look at with the carbon filter replacement before we spend that money. So
Okay, so
those are the capital projects that we've recommended to reduce.
yeah, and I just want to thank the
I have
staff.
no idea.
I just want to thank the staff for,
I'm going to move to the review so I
Okay.
can continue this conversation and know what you're saying back to me.
I love the technology.
Looks like Chris is on the move.
He's on the road.
Hello. I'm not Chris Hodges, but oh, there it is. So I'm gonna do the rest of the meeting from over here. You gotta love technology.
So what I was saying, Mark, is that I wanted to thank all of the staff for their hard work in identifying some items that they were willing to take out of their budgets. Because even though those capital projects represent, over $100,000, there was still another 150 that our staff worked on finding in the budget. And just so everybody understands what this means, our capital projects, the vast majority of them this year, aside from we had a couple of bond issues, one of which we're not going to be doing this year, they were all funded from undesignated fund balance. That is the money that was originally in the budget in prior years, and as that undesignated fund balance builds up, we can ask the town to let us use it for various projects. And the selectmen once a year, when they set the tax rate in October, have the opportunity to change what the tax rate is going to be based on use of undesignated fund balance. So all of these budget items, whether they be capital projects that we were going to use undesignated fund balance for, or regular operating budget items, they are all paid for, if you will, by this undesignated fund balance. Doing this exercise basically frees that money up so that it can be used to try and keep the tax rate at a palatable level come October. And that is what this exercise has been about. So I want to thank everybody for their participation in this. You're going to see some of these items at town meeting again in 2021, but that's kind of what we have to do given the shortfall we project in revenue. We won't know what the actual shortfall is technically till the end of the year, but we'll have a pretty good handle on it by October.
Yes,
when set the tax rate.
Yeah, we'll do one more projection update in September, at your second meeting in September. And then we can change these numbers as we need to.
Right. Okay, anybody else have anything to contribute on that subject? All right, we have another item of old business, on-street parking on Valley Road by the clubhouse. Mark, I had asked you to go back because I thought we had had some conversation with Craig after we said yes to this, and I didn't remember what it was.
The arrangement that we made was that this was a temporary trial during the winter, to see if the area that we had chosen for the on-street parking was safe, and if we had any traffic issues at all, if there were any sight distance problems or anything like this. And Chris and Jim, we didn't have any issue in doing this when we tried it out in the winter. He actually didn't do it, I don't think, as much as we had anticipated. So there were only a couple of weekends when we actually used that space. So
Okay.
my problem with doing it right now is that it was sending a kind of a mixed message between no on-street parking and then having on-street parking.
But don't we have signs that would designate that as a parking area?
Not that fit into the other signs around town. We can make some, I guess, but it was just sending a contradictory message. Because we had all these other signs out that said no parking. That was the problem.
Anybody have any input on this? Rich, Mike?
What does Chris say?
I say that it worked fine. It's just philosophically, if we get into doing it here, where else do we do it? Who's paying for it? You know, I think there's something, it has to be more of a permanent nature as far as paving and painting and things like that, so.
What about doing it as we used to operate the skate park, doing it by temporary permit for the summer, and then revisiting a full set of criteria if it's going to be permanent? Would that?
Is that a question for me?
That's a question for everybody, I guess.
Like I say, operationally and functionally, it was fine. It's just looking more at the big picture.
Jim, what's the difference between now? Is there any difference between now and the winter, from your perspective, as far as having those cars parked off the pavement on that grass area between the travel lanes and the sidewalk?
From a maintenance perspective, it's not a big deal, winter or summer for us. It's, I think, I guess I agree with I agree with the philosophical question. But I think that if this is going to be a permanent thing, it should be made permanent, and probably a parking area should be put in there and designated as a parking lot, to get around the ordinance.
So what would we have to do to make that happen?
We'd have to do a little bit of excavating and paving.
And who would pay for it?
That is not going to, there's no money, there's not enough money in the road repair budget as we speak to finance that.
Right.
Zero, because we used it, remember, we did it if we're successful with the Northern Borders grant application.
Okay, but we own that piece of property, correct?
It's in the town right of way, yes.
Yeah. Well,
I'd like to make a comment.
Yeah,
It seems to me, and I've had this expressed to me, and I actually, I agree with it. There are safety and aesthetic reasons not to have parking, on the road. We do have more foot traffic and bicycle traffic in the summer, and this was not an issue, in the winter for obvious reasons. And, aesthetically, it just doesn't look as nice. And there is a parking lot within a couple blocks. So I think we need to consider the full picture and some other concerns that the town folks may have.
I have not heard any concerns from town folks at this point in time. You know, this was mostly a question of whether Craig could continue to do what he had done during the winter period.
Right.
I know.
Well, my vote was always contingent on it being temporary.
Right.
If we're gonna make it more, making it temporary again, aren't we starting to look like the skate park all over again when we keep on making things temporary? If we're gonna
Well, I
do
would
it,
think there would have to be an end game to this temporary
yes,
issue. It would not be definite. But I think, you know, if we went temporary and came up with a plan as to how to address the issue, because it's an issue that needs to be addressed all year round with the overflow there.
What if we made it temporary and we had a warrant article in 2021 to see how the town really feels about it?
Well, I think it would be more than a warrant article. It would be probably granting the golf club an easement for the place. Yeah, if that's what you want to do, Margaret.
Well, I'm just thinking out loud here. See, I do not have a problem with saying that there's no parking on the roads, except that there's one place where we don't have enough parking for all the people that are there for social events and that kind of thing, that we have designated associated with the golf club, because that is kind of a social club for the valley. I don't sense that it has inconvenienced anyone during the winter, and so that part of things doesn't bother me. But I think we do need a long-term plan if we're going to say yes to a temporary extension.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with it. We just need a plan that we can define what we're doing and redefine the space. Because what happens to the next person who wants to do that someplace? What if we come up with, say, the chapel? People want to park on a different place, or they redevelop things like the land of, it just goes to something. I think, it's a good idea to get organized parking over there in a way that works for everybody.
So does that mean we say no on temporary and
Well,
the 2021 town meeting?
I think that Craig is under the impression that it was granted year round, and we don't have anything, Mark, that says, I don't remember it. I was hoping you could bring something that would talk about the language and what the minutes would have said from that meeting when we talked about it. But was this more of a planning board issue than a selectmen's issue?
No, this was a selectmen's issue.
Yeah.
And you said that we would do it for that winter season.
Yeah.
That we would revisit it.
That we should have probably revisited before now.
Yeah.
Well,
But I think because we haven't revisited, maybe we should err to his side and help him out for the season with some signs that say temporary parking only.
I'm kind of in favor of that as well. But if he wants it to be a permanent parking area, isn't there a way that he needs to ask for an easement on town property and build and construct that on his own?
I would not give him no. I would recommend that we do it as public parking.
Right.
Okay.
Now, like the bus turnoffs, or do it within the right of way. And I just think that there are different like Chris said, and like I guess Rich just said too. Sorry, I'm losing track of folks because I'm going between cameras here. But we have different safety concerns than we did in the winter. We have a lot more traffic. People use the sidewalk there. That is, remember, that's an area that gets plowed over during the winter, so we didn't have to worry about people walking in the same area that people are parking. I think it's gonna be more difficult to mark it out and actually make it an identifiable spot. I really do.
Well, what I'm suggesting is, Mark, why don't we have some public hearings on this and we can all voice our concerns and supports for it?
Okay.
Because we don't,
Yeah.
you know, we're just representatives. We're not owners of that land.
Right.
Okay, we can put it on the next agenda item and make sure that, like, the community meeting on Tuesday will tell people that we're gonna talk about it.
But right now, with the low volume at the golf course, there doesn't seem to be an overall problem with parking.
Yeah, the reason I don't have a real problem with it, it's not an everyday occurrence. And I would rather see it in an organized manner than all over Moose Crossing. Where by the time we realize, like even with the signs up there, by the time we realize that whole road is parked up, it's too late.
Right. Okay, we'll put it on for the next meeting, and we'll take some input, and I'll get Craig, make sure Craig knows and talk to you about it.
Right.
I guess we have agreement from the fourth party.
We could even let him come in by Zoom and make his point.
Sure.
Yep.
I'll set that up with them.
Okay. All righty. Anything else? Board concerns and directives we're at.
Hey, I had one small question when I was going over all the numbers and all of this. You know, we've been fairly amenable to Shakespeare in the Valley.
Mm-hmm.
As I understand it, she's running a camp this year.
Yes.
Is that correct? Does she have licensure and insurance for all of this activity?
Yes, in fact, one of the major things that she uses the money from the town for is to secure that insurance policy. And we will have a copy of that policy before she runs her camps.
Okay, just came to me.
Yep.
I have one item. Do we have a sense of when we may be going back to in-person select board meetings? Anybody?
Well, you know, I thought it was, the article you sent out, Rich, today about that was great, which it seems that more people are participating in government on Zoom than they ever did by in person.
I think that was Mark's email.
Mark sent it out. I saw it coming from you.
Oh, okay. I'm everywhere.
We know that. That's CIA stuff.
Well, no, I just think, yes, we get more participation because of Zoom, potentially. I don't know for this town, but there's something to be said for in-person discussion with your public representatives.
Well, I think if we reach a point where the governor is saying more than 10 people can be in a room, and we'll probably end up wearing masks and sitting more than 6 feet apart and that kind of thing, I don't know.
But it also said in the guidance, it said for people that aren't at risk, and we all are at risk.
We are all at risk, yes. Yeah.
But I think maybe the fact that people are getting used to seeing us on Zoom, maybe more people will continue to stay with us on Zoom.
Yeah.
On YouTube, I mean, because
On YouTube,
when we
yeah.
go live.
Yeah.
But also, are we going to cut our schedule back as we usually do in the summer to one meeting a month?
We haven't talked about
Good point.
that. We had so many things to deal with. I don't know, July and August, one meeting, Mark?
Maybe, can we make that final decision next meeting?
I think if you're gonna have the COVID updates every week, you know, maybe we can afford to just be once a month. But whatever.
Yeah, we'll also have to look at the COVID updates because depending on what the new guidance is, there may be a lot less to report.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Make them
numbers in the
episodic.
state are looking good, so.
Yeah.
So far, thankfully, yep.
Yeah.
So, maybe we could go to one COVID update and one selectmen's meeting or something like that.
Right, right. That's a good idea. Okay, let's talk about it next meeting. We will have a regular next meeting and we'll talk about setting the calendar for July and August at that meeting.
Right, and that'll be June 24th right now.
Okay.
Very good.
All righty. I guess we have finished with our regular meeting and we need to go into non-public. And I will make a motion that we go into non-public. I have a second.
This is Rich. I will second that motion.
All right. All in favor? Margaret, yes?
Rich, yes?
I guess.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.